Real Talk the podcast. We just keeping it real. Inspirational motivation is something that you can feel. Authentic, I know you can tell. Hosted by Kimberly Sherrill. We got food for thought. Come help yourself. One of a kind like nobody else. Yeah, wanna see you mentally grow in a major way. Play this back like day to day. See all that stress and doubt, just watch it fade away. There is nothing you cannot achieve. Good vibes, yeah, we got that. Kimberly, go ahead and talk to him. It's the Real Talk Podcast. Let's go.
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Real Talk the Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Sherrill. I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Whatever day that this is, just know that you are truly appreciated because you could have been anywhere else, but you decided to tune in here and listen. I am so ecstatic to be here with you guys for season 2 of Real Talk the Podcast. Season 1 was just a magnificent ride. I thank you for taking that journey with me, and I look forward to all of the many interviews that we're going to do during season 2. Today, I have with me the beautiful guest, Michae and Quintell, who form Ghostreaders. I'm so excited. So without any further ado, let's get with it. Hello, Michae and Quintell. How are you doing?
We're good. How are you?
We're good. How are you doing?
Listen, I am like gassed up right now on candy corn. Oh, listen, it is the fall season. If you are listening outside of the fall, just know that it's November 1st. And I am gassed up on candy corn because I love it. I love it so much. So it's a beautiful day where I am. And I'm just excited to talk to both of you. If you will, give the listeners a quick introduction on the dynamic duo that forms Ghostreaders.
Indeed. So Ghostreaders, our aim is to support Black writers and Black authors with audiobook narration. We also do podcast services like podcast intros and outros and things like that, and any other voice services that you need, including voiceover templates. So like if you record your own stuff, we sell templates that you can use to kind of boost and clean up your audio.
Wow. Now that is awesome. That's awesome right there because right now we are living in a virtual time. And, you know, people are really stepping outside of the box and they're looking to do more things themselves to enhance their services. So I think those templates are awesome. Listeners, if you need those templates, make sure you visit the link in the bio.
Yeah, for the template, you can go to audacitytemplate.com if you use Audacity. Yep.
Okay. Well, that is great. So I know you said that the both of you are looking to work and collaborate more with Black readers and Black writers. Why ghost reading? Why not, publication or something like that? What made you decide like, hey, I think that we should get together and start doing audiobooks and podcast reading and commercials and things? Like what inspired that?
The first thing was that really got us into it was Michae took a class, and part of it he learned more about doing audio work and voiceover work. So when he was doing it, he mentioned it to me, and I was like, that's interesting. So that was the final push. But before that, we're avid readers. We read all the time, and we listen to audiobooks. So, we hear a lot, we read different genres and everything. So when he took that class and we were like, hey, wait a minute, we can be the people that we hear? Well, absolutely. And then in a lot of the books that we read, we didn't always hear us. So, and I mean, not in just the everyday stuff. If you look for a certain type of book, you might get a Black narrator.
And you might not.
That's the crazy thing. Even if it's a Black author who wrote it. So we were like, we want to be able to bring that option to other Black writers and something that's of quality, not just, anything. We want to be able to give them the stuff that we hear, that everybody listens to on Audible and things like that. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to be able to do that.
I agree. I agree. Now, I am an avid reader. I love, the hardback books. Like those are just that's the cherry for me. And
Mm-hmm.
what you mentioned about maybe you will hear a black voice and maybe you won't. That is part of the reason I think why I have not really connected with audiobooks is because the few books that I tried to listen to, I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
connect with the voice that was
Exactly.
narrating the story. I couldn't connect with it.
Yeah, and that's hard because you hear, and that's one of the things we say. We want to bring the author's voice in their head to life. Like when you read something, you create your own characters in your head, and you hear their voices. Then when you go to listen to an audiobook, and you hear something totally different, like that's not it, or that's not how we would say
Right.
that particular term.
Or even think about, like, I know you've done, like, if you ever call customer service and there's that moment when you both realize that you're black and there's this comfort, like, hey, I know you, you know me. No, I don't really know you, and no, you don't really know me, but you can hear when someone's black. You can tell, and you're like, oh, okay, we connect.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole tone of the conversation changes. And that's the environment we try to create, when we read. We want people to feel like, I know you, and I know you know me, and I can trust you to tell this story the way it needs to be told.
Right, right. And that's so important with audiobooks. I know you guys know that, but I'm talking to the listeners, like that is so important. I did a project this year, a book project. I've done many. And one there was discussion of making an audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that wanted to read the chapters was not black. And as awesome as that sounded, is like a great opportunity. I had to be the one to just say it. I'm not comfortable with you reading my chapter
Mm-hmm.
because my chapter was told from my point of view and my voice. I said, I
Exactly.
think I will lose readers if they're reading a chapter by a black woman and the voice reading it clearly is not. And even beyond that, she's not even from the same region of the US that I am from. So her
Mm-hmm.
vernacular is not going to match mine.
Yeah.
So, you know, the point of what you guys are doing, oh my God, is so fantastic. That is so needed. That's so needed.
Yeah.
So my question, like, do you guys have a favorite genre that you like to read?
I think I mean we're down for whatever, We'll read anything, just about. But I think as far as it really depends on the ease of it. So if I wanted to read something easy, that I know I could just flow with, and it's going to be something along the lines of like self-help or something like that. But when it gets into books that are more characters and, different people interacting with each other, that is also fun, but it adds a gray hair to my life because I like to really put thought into the different characters. Like, if Johnny is talking and then Sam is talking, Johnny shouldn't sound just like Sam, to give you that's just the way we do things.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have a favorite. It's just whether or not I feel like doing something easy or something that's going to make me work a little bit more.
Yeah. And then for me, just personally, like, I like the idea of black sci-fi and black horror. So I would love to bring more of that stuff to life.
Right, right. And what you just said, Quintell, about the multiple voices, that is why my children do not enjoy me reading stories to them. The Big Bad Wolf and Little Riding Hood all sounded the same. mom reads, it's all over the place. You know, so what goes on in the background before you're actually recording, yourself reading the book? Like, what happens prior to that?
A lot of conversation with the author is one of our biggest things because we want to make sure that we're portraying what they want. In the end, regardless of how we present it, it has to be a representation of what they wrote. Like, we don't want to go off. And if we have questions, even that's throughout the whole process, but definitely in the beginning, we always talk to them, get a feel for who they are, and then who the characters that they created are, and then just researching the actual book, seeing what's going on in the book, reading the book, asking questions about, well, when you said this, what did you mean? Or how did they do this? Or what were you thinking over here? So it's a lot of prep and conversation with the author on the reading side. Then there's the technical aspect that Michae tends to handle.
Yeah, and that a lot of that is so there are things that I put in place that work, but I'm always kind of paying attention to making sure that I just make Quintell's voice, since she's the primary reader, or my voice sound as great as possible. And then I'm just making sure the process is streamlined so we meet ACX standards. So the author doesn't have any type of slowdown with their book getting approved. And then on the other end, with their book sounding the way it needs to sound for the listener.
Okay. So tell me, what is like the typical timeline? So from when an author first approaches you saying, hey, I'm interested in having you read my book, to the finish line of, okay, the author has everything that he or she needs to upload to turn it into an audiobook.
So I would say, now, of course, it depends on whether or not we're working on something at the moment. And then the other thing is depending on the word count. So in general, we say a 10,000 words takes us approximately 3 hours to process. So if you think, like, let's say you have a novel that's 100,000 words, then that's 10 hours. So that takes us approximately 30 hours to process. And when I say process, I mean we got to read it, then we got to edit it and clean it up and make sure everything is done. So, and then 30 hours, we have to work 30 hours into our life, so we got kids, Quintell has a 9 to 5, so we have to make that work. So like, I don't know, what would you say, 100,000 words? Would that be a month?
It could be. It really depends.
Does grandma hold on to the kids for longer? Stuff like that,
Right. Well, see, listen, my timeline was all off because I was thinking you were probably going to say, oh, that's probably about 3 months. I was like, that's just me thinking it. But I know the listeners, anyone who is interested, so that people come into things with a very realistic timeline, because you are not aware of something, you may come in with unrealistic expectations. Have you guys encountered that? Like an author approaches you and is like, hey, can you get, my 60,000 word novel in audio form by the end of the week? Can you make that happen for me? I promised them I was going to have the book out by now and it's not ready.
We give them a lot of information on the front end. So we don't really encounter authors being confused or anything, because we make it real clear how long things take, what our process is, etc. And interestingly enough, if an author was like, I need something right away to get to the reader, we do micro reads too. So where we'll say, hey, listen, we can create a sample for you, of like, maybe 1,000 words or something like that. So that way you can have something to market on Instagram or Facebook or what have you.
Oh, micro read. Now, as soon as you said that, I started thinking about the old school radio shows. Of course, I wasn't alive when that happened. We weren't alive back then, but we've seen it in movies and things where you tune in each week and the person reading the story to you and you only get a little piece and then you have to come back, like the next.
Right.
Yeah,
type thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
a radio drama. Yeah.
yes, but
Mhm.
that's sort of like when you said micro read, that's exactly where my mind went to. You get just enough to hook you.
Pique your interest.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, what is it like working together as a husband and wife duo? What is that like?
It's great. We've actually done it, just working 9 to 5 for a couple years. And that's just the way we've always been. So even in thinking about starting this, it was like, hey, it's another opportunity for us to work together again. So it works well for us. It's what we do. It's who we are. We've always spent that time together and always enjoyed each other's company. So having worked together, like we were always home because we worked with foster kids at one point.
Hmm.
So that was it. We left our bedrooms, closed the door, and we were at work. So talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, So this is just another aspect of that which we enjoyed. So it works. It works out for us.
And then that idea of us kind of creating something together to give to the world is very attractive. We love that.
Outside of children.
Outside of children.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. I know husband and wife sometime working together, it can be a lot of time together, a lot of cohabiting and coexisting, but it's so wonderful that you guys have really been able to mesh in a way that it's not only working, is actually working, like you've turned it into a business and going great.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of doing audiobooks and voiceovers, what else do you guys do together with the company Ghost Readers?
So what we definitely, since we're in this space, we do things connected to podcasts. So we've done a few where like somebody who has a podcast is like, can you make an intro and an outro for me? So basically lay vocals down on top of music, and then put their show out. Because if you run a podcast, it's almost like being introduced. You want someone else to do that. You don't necessarily want to introduce yourself. You want somebody to say, here's Johnny. You don't want that to be Johnny Carson. That's weird. You know what I mean? So that's something we offer. And then, of course, because we're in that space, if you're like, listen, I just want to talk. I do not want to go back to my podcast and cut out all the silences and mix in the music. I have no desire to do that. We can also offer podcast editing as well.
Okay. Well, that is great, and I do agree. It would be a little weird if Johnny Carson had been the person saying, "Johnny." But all of those things that you just mentioned, those are the little extras that really catapult, podcasts and things like that for the host of the show to have it. Even my podcast, each time I've had someone else to do my intro because I was like, maybe you want to hear someone else's voice, even if it's for 30 seconds in the intro.
Right.
And, editing audio is very difficult. This is not something, I don't care what YouTube tells you. You cannot just watch a YouTube video and then be able to professionally edit audio to the level that you really want to have it, where it doesn't just sound like it's someone that is novice. You want it to be of quality. So these are all services, and these are all COVID friendly services.
Indeed.
Yes.
So, you guys mentioned earlier before we were on air that you've been in business almost a year. And so you actually started Ghost Readers right before the pandemic. And so
Mhm.
since that
Yeah.
time, have you guys seen since the pandemic, influx of writers coming to you wanting to do more things for their book, do audio things, or more podcasts popping up? And so there's more work for creating the intros or editing the audio.
I think it's being pretty consistent. The thing that has changed is the different types of things. So not just the books. So doing the voiceover, the podcast intros and outros and things like that, and even developing the templates and the micro reads. So a lot of stuff kind of we created during that process.
Yeah.
But the reading has been about what it was. We've had more engagements with people, more opportunities to talk about it and just to, let people know. So that has picked up for sure.
Okay. All right. So what's next? Like going into year 2 of Ghost Readers, what are there any new services that you're thinking about adding or enhancing? More opportunities that you're looking forward to? What are your goals for year 2 of Ghost Readers?
Yeah, I would say that we're going to lean into what we have. I toy with the idea of maybe doing a little or offering some jingle, some singing type
Yeah.
things, since that's something that we both do. We haven't leaned into that, but that is something that's within our wheelhouse.
Mhm.
So even in terms of commercial type work and things like that, we could do smaller things. So that would be fun because we both enjoy singing. So that's look at her face. She's like, he
They
didn't
can't see my
say
face.
that. If they look hard enough, they can see it. But yeah, that's something I kind of want to lean into. But yeah, and I think probably what we really want to do is go to more events. Where there are authors and things like that to connect with. And when I say go to, I know a lot of stuff is virtual, but lean into that more into the second year.
Okay. Listen, when you said singing, I was like, who pipes are warm? Who's pipes are warm? Who's gonna give us a little something on the mic? But there is a consistent market for jingles and things like that with commercials and all. And now with there being so much streaming, there are all these new channels that are popping up that are just for streaming. This not the
Mhm.
traditional cable or satellite, and people are creating their own TV channels within these. I know that people have
Right.
created
Yeah.
channels with Roku and Amazon Prime and things like that. So there is definitely a consistent market for it. So this is
I actually manage a television channel, and Quintell has done some voice work for Business Bully TV.
oh, okay then. All right. Well, listen, y'all are in there. I know that year 2 is going to be amazing, and my hope is that in 2021 we do see more of the in-person events come back. Um,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was the difficult part of 2020, and it was totally necessary, completely necessary. But there's something
Mhm.
about being in person and being in the room with someone else that you're able to sort of vibe off of each other's energy, really connect
Right.
with them. That I hope that really is able to come back in a more prevalent state in 2021.
Yeah.
So this is season 2, listeners. The hot seat has changed. The questions are not the same from season 1. So, Michae and Quintell, we're going into the hot seat. Uh,
Oh Lord.
She ain't telling me about no hot seat.
going into the hot seat. And so, it's 5 questions that you just give me your honest, real answer because this is Real Talk, the podcast. So, are y'all ready?
Okay.
Oh,
I don't
Let's
know.
go.
I got one I don't know and one let's go. So I'm going with the first one I heard, which was the let's go. Okay, so with without without any names or anything like that, tell me what has been the out of the worst customer experience that you've had, what has been the biggest lesson that you learned about being a business owner? Out of the worst customer experience that you had, what's been the biggest lesson that you've learned about business?
So interestingly enough, I can't say that we've had any really bad customer service issues in terms of the customer. I think what we've learned is to make sure that the customer is fully educated. So like every time we work, we actually figure out, oh, okay, we should have told the author this. You know what I mean? And then they would have less questions about X, Y, and Z. Funny story. We're actually doing a thing where I'm writing a book. I'm going to narrate it. And we're only writing that book so that I can be able to write a second book that explains the process of writing a book and getting it narrated. So it's really a 2-book project so that we can say, hey, authors, if you want to get your book narrated, read this. This tells you everything from a firsthand perspective on how to do it, what things you need to look out for, how to set things up, all that type of
Oh,
stuff.
I love that. I love that. You want to have the experience. So you want to be able to get that firsthand knowledge and not just from a research perspective. Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I absolutely love that. All right, so let's move right along. Question two. Question two. Outside of the books that you guys have narrated, what is your favorite book? What book do you go back to? And that can be either Michae or Quintell, or you both can tell me a book that was a favorite.
That's a loaded question.
No,
That we've
no,
narrated, a book that we've
that you've
narrated, or
read.
just that we've
Yeah.
read?
That you've read.
Um, man, I don't know. I think I mean, we didn't go back to it yet because the series isn't done. But one that we talk about a lot that we like is recent
Oh, okay.
Children of Blood and Bone
Yeah.
by Tomi Adeyemi. That was the first book that I've picked up in a while, like physically picked up. Because like I said, we did a lot of audiobooks. So I had to get that from the library and hold it in my hands and read it. You know, we driving in the car. I got the flashlight on because it's dark. Trying to finish that. That really, it just went. That book just really went. So I love that book. That was the first one and the second one. Waiting for the next one to come out. So I think that would be the one for me right now.
Yeah, I think I have a couple books that like I read often as a kid. Like there was one called Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card, sci-fi, and it might have been that one or one of the Hobbit. And I think the Hobbit I actually did. I had to write a paper in 12th grade, and I was supposed to read a book. I didn't feel like reading a book. So I actually just did it on that one because I was so familiar with it that I was able to flip to pages where content was because I've read the book almost every year since I was like 9 or 10, you know?
Okay. So I have not read The Hobbit, but I've seen the movie. I don't know if I get credit for that. But The Children of Blood and Bone, I actually have that book. And I had, and I put it down and I picked it back up and I put it down again. It is taking me a moment to really kind of get into it, but it is on my list of books to finish this year because I did start it. So you are inspiring me to go
Do
back
it.
and try
Do
and
it.
get through it. I might just need to skip to like chapter 2, and then once I get really into it, then I'm like, okay, let me go back to the beginning and see. But definitely, definitely. So I love that. All right, listeners.
Well, the audiobook is great because the narrator reads with an African, whatever that means, accent. So it feels really good and really puts you in the space.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that will inspire me too to pick up the book and go it a little bit more. I'm going to try it again though, because I've heard great things about the book. And that was why I put it on one of my wish lists, and I got it for Christmas last year. And I just have not had the opportunity to truly finish it because I also have a book club. And so reading the books and that, but I love that. All right. So moving along to the next question. What celebrity or famous person, maybe not necessarily a celebrity, what famous person or celebrity would you guys love to work with?
I'm sure Michae has somebody in his head.
I don't know. Sam Jackson seems cool.
Said who?
He would be
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah.
That would be very interesting.
It's funny that you say that because I was joking a couple of nights ago. We were talking about Jeopardy and said, what would it be like if Samuel L. Jackson was like the host of Jeopardy?
Right.
Wow. That's a thought.
Or moderating one of
Oh.
the debates. That would be great.
Oh, they wouldn't be as long as they are.
Right.
He would
But,
shut it down.
I would actually love to hear him narrate a book. So, that might actually be something. Samuel L. Jackson, if you are a fan of Real Talk Podcast and you are working on a book, thinking about a book for 2021 and you want an audio book, call Ghostreaders and work with them because I would love it. I would.
Yeah, he has what is it? It's not a
It's a
children's book.
Oh.
It's a children's book.
Oh,
but
I know.
when he read it, it's
I know.
not. You know the one. So he did do something, but that's
No,
not-
but I would just love to hear, let's take him through a nice long novel. A nice long novel,
Yeah.
go through multiple voices. I'm here for it.
That was fun.
Yes. All right. So, next question. So, you guys are a dynamic duo, and I love that. But if you were not a dynamic duo working together, what else would you have been doing? Like, have you thought about were there any other career paths that you were maybe headed on and thinking about? So if Ghost Readers was not to be and you guys actually had separate companies, what would you be doing?
Well, I'm a photographer. So that's actually where I started. So I was doing that before we were narrating books. So between that and then I'm an actor as well. So those are kind of my things.
Yeah, if I had to do everything that I did or thought about was kind of assisting his stuff. But if I had to do one on my own, it would probably be something along the lines of something with dance ministry and churches, something along those lines.
Okay.
If I wasn't already working a 9 to 5 and whatnot.
Right. Well, you guys are both very artistically inclined, and I love that. So the last question in the hot seat, tell me, what has been the best business advice that you have received? The best business advice.
So I have a business coach, and probably two of the biggest things are doing it yourself is overrated. So pay a professional or basically outsource your weaknesses and work on your areas of strength. That's probably the main thing. And then, the next one that's close to that is don't be scared to spend the money that you need to spend to build your business. People a lot of times will try to save money, and end up spending a lot more money on the back end and or time because they're like, well, I don't want to pay for like they try to use Zoom because Zoom is free. You know what I mean? But you could use another service that would give you better quality and get you more what you wanted. So now you fighting, trying to use something free or cheap when you could just spend a little bit more money and get what you need.
And I would say just know your craft. Whatever it is you're doing, whatever business you have, and be educated about it and not just guessing and flying by the seat of your pants.
Ooh, don't Google and guess. Do not Google and guess. All of that is great advice. You do tend to spend more, or it will at least cost you more when you try to cut corners by trying to save in your attempt to save $1, you spend 10. It's really defeating the purpose and Googling and guessing. I'm not a fan of that. Let's really do our research. Let's really build those skills up. Let's enhance the quality of what we offer. Let's not just, swing for the fences. Now we need to go to batting practice first. All right. So, listeners, we have reached the end of this episode. But before I close out, I would love to give Michae and Quintell the opportunity to tell you how to locate them on social media as well as their websites if you are looking to connect.
So you can find us everywhere on social media at Ghostreaders Inc. INC. Our website is ghostreaders.com. And if you want like one of those templates for Audacity, you would go to Audacity template.
Awesome. So any closing remarks for the beautiful listeners of Real Talk the Podcast?
Well, thanks for having us. It's been grand. Hopefully, you all are inspired to, pick up an audiobook or at the very least a book. But, and if you need us, we're here for you. We appreciate you, Kimberly, for allowing us.
Oh man, I've had so much fun. I had to watch the time because I would have really just went over because you guys are really awesome together, and the energy that is coming through is radiant and it's feeding me.
Wow, 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 wow.
All right, beautiful listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Real Talk the Podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Sherrill. I just want to say to you again, thank you so much for tuning in. You could have been anywhere else, but you decided to be here with me, and for that, I am eternally grateful. Make sure you tune in next week to a brand new episode of Real Talk the Podcast. And so, in the between time, remember to do what? Always stay real.